I'm David Jenkins. This is Thursday the 25th of January 2018, and this evening I'm here to interview
Adrian Rollins.
Thanks very much for coming, Adrian.
No problem.
Can we start off just simply by asking, how did you actually get into cricket in the first place as a youngster?
All my family were into cricket. My uncle used to play actually Essex schoolboy cricket with Graham Gooch, and all of my uncles were absolute cricket fanatics. My family are from Barbados, which is historically known to produce the odd decent cricketer, some guy called Sobers and Haynes Greenwich, Marshall, just to name a few. But yeah, so my family were always into cricket, my grandparents as well, and it just naturally followed that we would be into it. I didn't know I'd play county cricket or anything like that, but yeah, it was just it was almost like a religion within my family.
So how did you then go from that background of London, growing up and playing cricket, to then come to play at Derbyshire?
I was at a college called the Haringey Cricket College, which later turned London Cricket College. And it was a place that produced a lot of county cricketers, so Mark Lane, Frankie Griffith, Darren Foster, Steve Bastian, Keith Piper. So it was a cricket college, like an academy type thing, way before academies were out. And it was through that avenue. I finished my A-levels. I was due to go to Loughborough University and do a degree in PE and sports science, but I thought, let me defer it for a couple of years. By that time, my brother had signed for Essex. And my brother told me, you know, you'd be wasting yourself not to have a go. So I joined the cricket college, enjoyed it, and put some good performances in for the cricket college. And I didn't think anything of it because I was so not wanting to go into it, but it wasn't a priority for me. So I thought, let me just go and play cricket. It was more cricket than I normally played, enjoyed it. And then the head of the cricket college, Reg Scarlett, referred me to Phil Russell because he always contacted the college to see for players. And I came up on trial. We played Worcester in 1992 at Derby, and I got 99 in the first innings and 77 in the second innings. I liked multiples of 11.
That's a second 11 game?
Yeah, second 11 game, a 3-day game here, and then the next game I might have got 50 odd again, and the next game 50 odd again. And the then CEO Bob Lark then offered me a contract for the 1993 season. So that's how it came about, really.
So at that point, you were happy you made that decision to go into cricket rather than higher education?
It was a 1-year contract, so I thought I'd do a 1-year contract. It's something I could tell my kids when they were growing up. I had a contract with a professional team, so I was quite relaxed going into it. And then when I signed, I started to think, well, perhaps I should not take it a bit more seriously, but I went to the gym, I trained really hard. I thought, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly. And then, so when I joined Derby in '93, fully in 1993, I was just focused on enjoying it because I thought 1-year contract, and because of that, I think things that helped me a lot because I wasn't overthinking. I was just playing cricket, and it didn't really hit me that I was actually playing professionally until I was in the change room with a lot of guys I'd watched on the TV, and I was playing against people that I'd seen on the TV. My first year, I would say I was actually in awe with a lot of people, and just to be in a change with John Morris, Kim Barnett, all those guys. So I knew who they were, and Dominic Cork because I followed him because he played a couple of one-day internationals at that point. So it was quite overwhelming, but it was I enjoyed every minute of it. So I think that's how it worked out. And because I enjoyed it and I broke into the first team reasonably early and got some runs, and the club then offered me a longer contract. I think it was then when I was offered a longer contract, I realised this is actually more than just a bit of fun.
And that the debut that you made in 1993,
yes,
you started off as an emergency wicketkeeper.
Yeah, my first class debut, I played the first team game, a one-dayer. It was the first year of colour clothing, and I played in that first game. We were Warwickshire at Edgbaston because John Morris got injured, and I think I batted 7 or 8. I can't remember now. I know it was somewhere in the lower order. And my first ball in first team cricket was Alan Donald. And the ball managed to get to the edge of the circle when having missed it, and having played in a kind of local part the year before to face Alan Donald was something else in front of a packed Edgbaston crowd as well. That was quite an occasion, but that actually did a lot for me because I enjoyed it so much. I thought I want some more of this. So that was actually a really good catalyst to kind of get me going. And then I made my first class debut as a wicketkeeper at Kidderminster, and that was. When I grew up, I was playing Essex schoolboy cricket. I actually kept wicket up until the age of 15 because I got too tall and I started to get backache and knee ache. But what happened was when we used to have benefit matches and testimonial matches, I kept all the time because I love wicket keeping, and it was something that kind of came natural-ish to me. Not as good as my brother, but it came natural. So when the debut presented itself, because Bernie Mayer was injured and Crick was injured, and when the captain came to me and said, "Would you like to play as a keeper?" I said, "Oh yeah, definitely." So, but my brother at the same time made his championship debut for Essex as a batsman, not as a keeper. So that was quite strange.
And I read somewhere that you may yet be the tallest ever first-class wicketkeeper.
Apparently so. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but someone's silly enough at 6'5" to actually want to keep wicket. Yeah, so apparently I am.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And as you were sort of growing up, coming into first-class cricket, what were the challenges as a sort of young black cricketer coming into the game?
I think the challenges were quite interesting. I used to go on trial for a lot of counties. I went Somerset, Gloucester, Leicester, I think Northants as well. And I think the challenge for me was the fact that because I'm a big kind of unit, they presumed I was a fast bowler. And they all had me running like I was Sid Lawrence. I wasn't Sid Lawrence. I wasn't anything like Sid Lawrence. And so they presumed, and when I said I was a batter who can bowl a little bit, it was kind of knocked to one side. I remember at Gloucester bowling for about 3 hours with some guys who actually went on to play county cricket. Almagar Sheriar, who went and played for Leicester and Worcestershire, and a lot of other guys. And I ended up bowling, and having a bit of a bat at the end. So that was a challenge for me. And then, funny enough, coincidentally, all the teams I got my top scores in first class cricket against, because Hampshire was another one, were all the ones that had me bowling. And that wasn't some revenge thing, that's just purely coincidence. So Hampshire was another place. I went for trial and I got 200 against them. Gloucester, I got 200. Leicester, I got, I think, 200 or 300 against Leicester. And Jack Birkinshaw, the coach, actually then recalls him having me bowling a lot. And every time I got 100, he reminded me, not that, he remembered me going there. So that was the challenge, really, that kind of stereotype, which, born from the fact that West Indies fast bowlers were generally quite big, with the exception of Malcolm Marshall. And the batsmen weren't necessarily 6 foot plus. You know, they're all around probably 5'10" or shorter. So it was that really with that. So that was a challenge. But apart from that, there wasn't anything else that I had to worry about. That was a big challenge.
Yeah. And then 1995, you got your maiden century for Derbyshire, followed by a 9-hour double hundred.
Yes.
Carrying your bat.
Yeah.
So presumably your game had matured and things were developing at that point.
Yeah, I prior to that, especially when I first started in '93, I had some really good scores. I recall Somerset here, I got about my third or fourth match, got 85, and that was a chance. But then Mushtaq Ahmed got me out, and then I kept getting. I think we played Lancashire at Blackpool. I kept wicket that game for a long time because we bowled them out and followed, and I got 97. So I was always there or thereabouts. But when I got my 100, that made a big difference to me for my confidence. And I think it was 2 games later I got the 200. And when I think about that now, like the length of the innings, I didn't think about it. I'd always had good powers of concentration anyway. And then when I found it was the longest innings in the club's history, it really, I don't think, it's not sunk in until after I finished playing, because I was taught just bat. So I just batted and I just played its ball and its merits, and that's something I learned at a very young age. So, but we lost. So, and when I got my other 200, we lost that too. Yeah.
And when you were at Derbyshire in 1990s, it was a pretty good side. Lots of strong players. I mean, who were the characters in that side that you were playing here?
Nearly all of them, to be honest. It was everyone had their own personality, and I actually liked them all for their personalities that they had. John Morris was very helpful for me because he was super confident, and that kind of rubbed off on you. I remember my first class debut at Worcester, and I was so nervous, and I said, "I'm really nervous, Adam, I'm really nervous." And he was like, "It's just batting with more people watching. It's like a second team game, more people watch. Just go out there and just play." He said, "Watch me and I'll show you." And he had that kind of confidence, and he was just watching, and I watched him. I don't think he got many runs, but he was still confident. And then you had like Corky, who was just Mr. Aggressive, but then in the dressing room there was a lot of pranksters, and I was a bit naive on that aspect. But you know, there were some real match winners in there. I think the thing about being that dressing room, there were some real quality match winners in there. You know, too many, not too many to mention, but yeah, you know, Kim could bat all the way through innings at will. Pete Bowler was a fighter, gutsy. Chris Adams would blast the ball over the place. Corky, there was no game that wasn't winnable. And even now, if someone asked me now if I'd pick the best 11 that I played with, Corky would be the first name on the list, because he was just an out-and-out competitor. And I played with people like Matthew Hayden, Michael Slater, you know, Mike Hussey, and like at Derby, obviously, there's your Chris Adams, and then that Northants, you know, Mal Loy. But if I was picking my 11 that I played with, forgetting even overseas, Corky was the first one on there, because he was super competitive. A good person to have on your side, not necessarily a good person to play against, but a good one to have on your side. So there were some real characters there, and as a unit, you know, I think we should have done better, really, because there was some real talent there, and there was always a lot of good individual performances. It was just a shame that we couldn't put it together as a team on a consistent basis, because I think that was our downfall, really. Obviously, we won the B&H in '93, which I didn't play in, but that was really good to be a part of that. But I just think as a team, we could have done a lot better. I didn't see many teams across the circuit that had the depth of talent of Derbyshire had. When you add to that Devon Malcolm, you know, and then the numerous Al Mortensen, Simon Bass, Alan Warner, Frankie Griffith, you know, then Daffy joined us in '94. You know, it's very hard to look around, and then obviously and JJ, hard to look around and see that kind of quality. So it was a shame, but I enjoyed it, and there were some away trips which were particularly enjoyable, where I was pranked quite a lot, particularly in my early years. Yeah.
And you played in the '98 NatWest final.
Yes.
Losing against Lancashire.
Yeah.
So what was that like, the experience of the Lord's final?
The thing about that, I wish I could have some kind of recording. I've got nothing. No. It was an adrenaline rush, and I remember about that much from it. And that's, I've contacted the BBC to try and get a copy of it. I can remember a bit of the warm-up. I can vaguely remember walking through the long room. I can't remember walking onto the pitch. I can remember scoring my one run, because a quick single I took to Wasim Akram. I can remember about 3 people getting out while I was sitting at the other end. I can remember Freddie taking an incredible catch to get me out. And I can remember a bit of the fielding. I remember us getting some wickets early on, and Corky getting, I think it was Atherton. But it's very small pockets of the game, because it was such an adrenaline rush that it's you know, it's a bit overwhelming initially. And I really wish I could see that. It was fantastic. I think it's a fantastic celebration for the Derbyshire supporters as well. And it was disappointing. September, it rained most of the day. We lost the toss, and we were doomed. Even though we had a fantastic start, Slats and Kim got us off to a great start. And you know, Glenn Chappell and Wasim Akram didn't really bowl well, but they capitalised. But then when they had their kind of, you know, as Peter Martin and Ian Austin, they bowled superbly on very bowler-friendly conditions. They were superb, and we had no answer to that. But looking back, I have no regrets about that. It was just an incredible experience. One that I never dreamed I would ever had as a kid. I mean, firstly, playing at Lords was one thing. I never thought that would happen, but playing in a final. I mean, my brother had 3 of those for Essex. Yeah, it's beyond my dreams. It wasn't anything that was even in my vision as a young man.
And through that period of the 1990s, were you competitive with your brother? You know, he's down in Essex, you're at Derbyshire, and you play against each other, presumably.
We played against each other a few times, and my brother, I was never competitive with my brother. In fact, it was very difficult to play against my brother. In '95, at Chelmsford, he caught me out off Peter Such. It was Rollins caught Rollins, and there's a picture of it, which he has in his room, which he has no intention of taking down. My mother and my grandmother slapped him for catching me out, so that was quite emotional for him. And then in '98 at Southend, it was Rollins caught Rollins both innings. So I was caught out off Ashley Cowan, and then he caught me out, I think, of Matt Van Drell. So yeah. So that was great. Playing against brother, I mean, that was wonderful because, you know, two young guys going to East London in very difficult conditions. It was, I was very honoured to play against brother. We weren't I didn't see myself as competitive. The only time I got competitive when he got his first class 100, because he got it before me. And there's no way my little brother should do that. So it was literally, and he got it against Glamorgan, and then when we played Glamorgan, I got my 100. So that was the only time I got a little bit competitive. I can't have my little brother outdo me. Yeah.
And then you moved on to Northamptonshire.
That's right, yeah.
Played there for a couple of seasons.
Yeah, 3 seasons. Yeah. Although I had a few injury issues. I mean, I finished my career through injury, but 3 seasons. That was an interesting experience. I think the best experience I had was opening the bat with Matthew Hayden. What an absolutely incredible talent. He hits the ball harder than anyone I've played with, and I'm talking Chris Adams. Corky could really clean hit a ball. We had some clean strikers at Derby, but no one I've seen in a time play hit a ball harder and cleaner. And also, technically, he was excellent than Matthew Hayden, and he had a presence at the crease. And then also Mike Hussey was the total opposite. So I was very fortunate. 3 Australian players opened with Slater here, and then Hayden and Hussey. 3 very intense characters, but 3 different characters. And you know, that's something that people can't take from you. To play with those 3 great Australian cricketers, phenomenal experience, and I don't regret any of it. I never thought I'd have a career as a cricketer, so that's why I spent a lot of my time smiling, because it was almost like I couldn't believe it. And I loved it. And it's actually set me up for life really. What I've learned from that, what I had to do, because I was very quiet as a kid, and that kind of brought me out myself. And those experiences I take into my current job now is phenomenal.
And you're back in Derbyshire now.
Yeah.
Teaching.
Yes.
And do you still have any involvement in cricket locally?
Yeah, I captain Quorn first team, Quorn Cricket Club, which I enjoy. And the chair of cricket, or the cricket chair, was groundsman here for a while, Steve Hollis. He's a great guy, and I love doing it. I do some coaching there, work with the youngsters. The main reason I'm there is not for myself, it's actually to try and bring the youngsters through. And again, you know, when I think about my cricket career, to be honest, the most memorable experience and the best experience I've had in my whole cricket career was playing with my son last year, because he was actually 15 at the time, and he broke through with Cornwall first team, and to play cricket with him, that's just, you know, I never thought that would ever happen. And he's an aspiring cricketer. He really does want to play county cricket for Derbyshire, and he's talented. So we might see that one day. I'm not sure how much longer I'll be playing though.
Well, it's been a delight talking to you, Adrian. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
No, it's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.